Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. My name is Kevin Snyder. I'm here with Glenn Willis and Tyler Jones, recording in between a pair of Cleveland Cavaliers games. And the Hawks have lost two in a row, the second of them to that Cleveland Cavaliers team in I don't know, unusual game. I don't know. It was kind of weird, and I don't really know where to start. So tell me what you thought about that Cavaliers game, Tyler.
Um, Somewhat similar to the Knicks game, where I don't think the Hawks were prepared for the level of physicality they were going up against. And that's two games in a row. Uh, I was really disappointed pr defensively in both Jalen Johnson and Onyeka Okongwu for the majority of the game, where it just felt like they were too passive defensively. With Cleveland's bigs, I hate to be, blunt about this, but I think they were playing with regular season intensity. Meanwhile, Evan Mobley's trying to dunk on them every other play. Like at some point, you got to up your intensity level. Like I'm sorry, Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley should not be able to ISO dribble you into a dunk or a dunk attempt. Like, can we be serious with you two? Like, they're not doing like full stop. Like everything we can talk about everything else if Onyeka Okongwu and Jalen Johnson are going to play that poorly, the Hawks have no shot against any team in the playoffs. Period. They cannot come out there playing that soft physically for until like the end of the game when it was too late. And so they need to step it up and play better. Just full stop. Like they need to play better. Now they were fine against the Knicks, but I just thought against the Cavaliers, like that was one of their games I saw in like November, December, where it was just like, well, we don't have a backup center. We got to play 40 minutes. We got to conserve our energy. Like they can't think like that. They cannot think like they have to they have to play hard every single second they're on the floor, and they have to trust their teammates behind them to carry them when they need to come out the game. So like to me, there's no pacing yourselves in the playoffs, man, because you can't just allow Mobley to get into that level of rhythm as an offensive player when the Cavs have both James Harden and Donovan Mitchell, who at any point can just go into elite shot maker mode and just make it very difficult for you to get stops. So like you have to control what you can control, and for me, like it starts with those two in particular on defense.
What did you think of the Cavs game, Glenn?
Well, when I saw who the officiating crew was, I knew we were in some trouble. So I don't want to occupy 8 minutes or anything on this, but I was like, wow, this is gonna be bad. This is gonna be really bad. And it was really bad. It was really bad. Nikhil got called for a marginal push on setting a screen. Donovan Mitchell totally flopped on Yeka's screen, and they called a foul on it. On the other side, the Cavs were pushing on every single screen the whole game and never got called for a single illegal screen. So just the disparity in the way that was being officiated. But as soon as I saw, like I always go look, if you can Google NBA referee assignments, you can go see who's assigned to the game. I was like, this is going to be a dumpster fire. This is a terrible, terrible crew. How James Caper is the crew chief, I don't know. I don't know. Jason Goble was right there. Jason Goble's a middle of the pack referee. Like he's pretty solid. Make him the crew chief. Make it Anyway, like I said, I don't want to take like more than like a minute or two on this, but the officiating was absolutely garbage, and I think it cost Dyson. Dyson got three fouls that were not fouls. And Jalen was being undisciplined. I think Quinn was right to point out that they were reaching after the game. I wanted him to be a little bit. I want him to say two things. One was we were not disciplined enough. I think that's fair. I think that's fair. They were reaching too much. On the other side, the whistle was not even on both ends of the court at all. So it drove me crazy. But they kept working, and they were right there. That they in the fourth quarter they really did fight back and got close. And which is what this team does. Um, but still, I think the officials were. bad. So, in
And
end
I,
of
and
rant.
I
End of
and
rant.
I agree with Glenn on the officiating. It's just to me, like you at the end of the day, you can't really control, the officials. I I just want to start there, particularly with both Jalen and Yuck, because they've been playing so much better during this stretch than what they showed last night in particular. I thought that was like one of the worst games of the season combined. I know Onyeka was fine on offense, but like defensively, because you saw the difference when Mo Gay was in the game in his third quarter, fourth quarter, where he's pressing up. He's not allowing them to dribble. Like you don't have to let bad ball handlers dribble. I'm sorry. But to do that, you have to play with focus and intensity. Too often, Jalen defensively was caught out in rotation, caught not in a stance defensively, just way overconfident in that, okay, my physical capability is going to um, allow me to recover from any quote unquote mistake that I do or don't make. And he couldn't because Mobley was just longer than he was, and he was finishing over the top of him. And so, like to me, I just think there just needs to be more. Like if the Hawks play the Cavs in the playoffs, those two in particular have to play better. Like yeah, it's just it's just the reality. But I'm with Glenn. At the same time, I thought the officiating was bad. Dyson, back-to-back games of him not getting respect that he deserves as a defender. Unbelievable foul call. Unbelievable overturn for his sixth foul when Donovan Mitchell hooked him. Like, give me a break, man. Give me a break. He clearly hooks him. You see it in the replay. I guess they called him for like his arm, but like that's marginal. I thought that was marginal contact, considering how many times Hawks, challenge calls that are marginal contact that don't get called. So I just found that I mean that won them the game. Like that ended the game right there. Really without Dyson, the Hawks really no Dyson, no Jalen. Good luck running a good offensive set. So that was frustrating the officials, but again, it should have never gotten to that point. They need to play with more focus. Those two in particular defensively for the full 48 minutes.
I agree with everything you said about Jalen's sloppiness on defense. But at the same time, it does feel like for the last week and a half, he's a little bit more alert to sort of getting weak side contests, which is like one slight uptick, even though, there were lots of other things to not like about his defense. Um, in both losses, there was a whole bunch of Dyson being guarded by a center. In this case, for the Cleveland game, it was Jarrett Allen was guarding him a lot of the time. How effective was that? Are the Hawks doing the right things to counter it? And does like in any way spook Jalen to just kind of not feeling confident about what he might be able to do in the paint?
I mean, for me, if Jared Allen, whatever the matchup is, right? If Jared Allen, Mitchell Robinson, whoever, it's going to just sit in the paint way off of Dyson, you should be able to generate a ton of threes, a ton of shots from the three-point line. And that should be the priority, right? For sure. If they're going to play deep drop coverage and the opposing team's going to work over screens, over, under, whatever the case might be, depending upon who the shooter is, you have to attack that. And in my mind, like they didn't do a good enough job kind of creating good 3-point shots in the game last night. There was more opportunity for that. Now Cleveland was super physical fighting over screens, and they were allowed to be so. Um, but it's one of those things where it's like Cleveland was flopping every time the Hawks would set some kind of marginally, maybe illegal screen. Like a Cleveland defender would just fall to the floor and the referee would call a foul on the Hawks. And I had this back and forth with someone on Twitter. I was like, the Hawks need to be less ethical. They need to fall down when there's a bad screen. Cleveland was pushing on every like two hand pushing on every screen. They didn't get called for a single foul on it, you know. So it's so I mean I understand it, I get it, but at the same time the Hawks got to be like this is how they're going to call this in the playoffs. We got to figure this out. We have to learn if they're going to push us. We need to be more physical back with it. We talked about this last episode, right? They haven't been in a 7 game playoff in 3 years, and the way that the games are officiated has changed. We've talked about this the last couple episodes too, but they have to figure that out. But they haven't had this experience and context for 3 full years that we can push on screens too. We can grab on screens too. We can flop on screens too. You know, we can do all that stuff, and they got to figure that out.
You just like gave me like a Clint Capella flashback to that Knicks series where he like went off on what the Hawks could do too compared to what the Knicks were doing. Do you have thoughts on that topic, Tyler? With Jared Allen backing up
Man,
off of Dyson?
that marginal, I don't doesn't matter. They they got to defend. Like y- sure. I thought against the Knicks. I mean, they got up plenty of threes against the Knicks. Against the Cavs, um, I think the Cavs were just keyed into a lot of what the Hawks wanted to do as well. Like they were just locked into basically every pet play that the Hawks have to get an open 3-pointer. But I thought the 3-point looks like overall, like I thought they were okay. And the offense was fine. They just weren't hitting shots. CJ McCollum couldn't make it. Like CJ McCollum has to make these uncontested 2-pointers. You know, he just does. Nikhil was cold relative, and Jalen Johnson couldn't make a jump shot. So it's just like, okay, you know, it'd be easier if they can get some clean shots at the rim. Well, how about we make the extra pass a little bit? You know, you get 2 feet in the paint, then you make the extra pass, and then you let the chips fall where they lay on who shoots the 3-pointer. It's too often CJ McCollum a couple times who's been elite at finishing at the rim, particularly with the Hawks. Last night, his shot, like his decision making the entire game was just terrible. Like he was just taking bad shots after bad shots at the rim. And then he was also missing his uncontested pull up 2-pointers, which, I mean, that comes and goes, but you expect he's going to make more than he misses than what he did. Well, he has to. Like he just has to because the Hawks are just, they don't have the creation, you know, at their guards other than him and Nikhil. So he has to be better, you know, at that end of the floor than what he was against the Knicks. I mean against the Cavs because like if CJ's making, they're not able to defend that way. Like that's that's a reality. We talk about. I thought Dyson was pretty good at all facets of the game, uh, particularly on defense. It it was interesting to watch Donovan Mitchell Nikhil's chest a little too easily. Felt like he was able to get his shoulder into Nikhil. They may want to just switch the matchup because James Harden is so reliant on his step back now at his age. He can't really. I think we kind of saw when he's in isolation, he really can't create separation like he used to anymore. Even CJ McCollum was really comfortable guarding him. There, the Hawks may want to try some interesting. If the Hawks are to play the Cavs, like because like again the offense, whatever. I'm more focused on defense here because defense is what cost them that third quarter that cost them the game. Uh, they may want to just have CJ guard James Harden and like be like, all right, man, you wanna ISO, bro, go ahead. But every screen you set, we're gonna switch it and be good. So I think they may have saw something where they're like, CJ's doing pretty well in isolation here. What
Mhm.
what if we what if we don't try to have CJ just guard James Harden like and be like, all right, if they're gonna set screens to get CJ all just to get James Harden some space here, then that's a win for us. And if it's just isolation, we feel like CJ can win that matchup consistently. He's been pretty good, I think, an ISO defender for the majority of his time here. I think that they may want to lean into that a little bit more because I don't know if you guys noticed I a lot because when the Celtics did it, the Celtics were guarding the Hawks' best offensive player with mediocre. They weren't putting Derek White on like Jalen Johnson. They were putting like Bear Shireman on him.
Simon.
Yeah, Shireman, because they knew the screen was coming. And so they were like, all right, we're gonna force you to beat us in isolation. I do think the Hawks should lean into that type of rhetoric where it's like, all right, man, we're gonna put CJ on James Harden or CJ on, the Knicks is a little different because they only really have one ball handler, but if they were to play the Cavs, I do think that's something they can lean into, just because of James' deteriorating play. Because like, I mean, he's still elite, but like, if it's going to be a screen, we can switch a screen, man. We can switch a screen that and we can go from there. Like, all right, man. Like, if that's how we want to go with, I do think because the Cavs were just getting easy look after easy look, getting the Hawks playing them straight up, and setting these good screens from their bigs, rolling to the rim, getting the Hawks
Yep.
in rotation.
Yep.
When they just started switching everything and stopped caring about who was guarding who, that they got what's more important was they were able to get both stops and turnovers. So that might be something they want to lean into going forward.
I like that notion. Um, I also thought Jonathan Kuminga was good guarding Harden. Like
Yeah.
that's something like whether it was on a switch or whether they were just intentionally doing it. Like he looked very comfortable in those situations. Like he can manage that space. Like it didn't seem like Harden could do a whole lot there to either get past him or get to a step back and have room for it. I just wanted to go back to the Dyson thing for a second. Like I don't think he has the ball enough. I think they defer a little too much. I want him to have the ball more. Like they're trying to use him to set screens, and I get it, but I still think that there's extra food to be gotten out of that in two areas. Like one, like he doesn't not have to have the ball. Like he can be the one handing it off and function as a screener. And I think that will give them some juice because like if you want Dyson to be able to do something going towards the paint, if you're worried about him handing off, you might have Allen come up higher to try to, be ready to cover that, and that might open some driving lanes for him. I also thought that when Dyson was functioning as a screener, and I don't know if it was fatigue or just the fact that he had to set so many screens, it didn't feel like he was rolling enough. It felt like a lot of times he would just set it and then just kind of drift behind the 3 point line again. And I think there's some opportunities for it. Looked like there was space for him to roll there on a lot of them, and it just wasn't taking it. So I don't know. I hope they pay attention to that sort of thing, for the next game or, potentially for the 7 game series. It could very well come up soon. What did you make of that game from Mo Gay? What do you
I
think, Tyler?
mean,
Oh,
yeah. I mean, I'll go first. I guess
okay, you go
quick,
first.
but I thought he was impactful. I again, it goes. I'm going to try not to fall back into it. Like the officiating was bad. It's like the Cavs were allowed to be so physical on defense, and the Hawks were not. It just blew my mind um that it was the disparity was just crazy to me. So yeah.
Yeah, but
What
it
do you
was
think
it was
about
good to
Mo,
see Mo
Tyler?
not care. Um, like he commit a foul, be like, all right, big whoop, move on to the next play. And
That's what you want from him in the playoffs too. Like
yeah,
he does not need to
gotta
worry
be
about foul trouble.
yeah,
Go put it out there.
which is why it was frustrating that Zach didn't play because sorry, they need his damn defense, man. Like again, I don't. Quinn gets in these traps about offense, and it's like, bro, we don't have an elite offensive player, and you're not going to magically create a good half court offense when the starters aren't in the game. You have to accept they're going to be bad on offense in the half court, but you got to live with the trade off because the defense can be elite with them, and that defense can lead to transition points, which will win you the basketball game. Like he punted the possession battle when he didn't have to when he decided to go with Kispert over Reese Shea to me. Like he just punted, and I'm like that's inexcusable from him. Uh, um, uh, Because I mean, he saw it with Mo. Like he saw it with Mo, man. Like Mo, just like, all right, they're not running these DHOs, bro. They're not running enough of these dribble handoffs from these bigs, enough of these pick and rolls with these centers, man. We are pressing up. We're getting into their pockets. We're taking the ball away from them. Like, and we're playing with the effort and intensity level that everybody has to play with. Like this is, at the end of the day, these postseason is going to come down to shot making and then defensive effort. Like, because like all these teams are relatively the same tier of talent, so it's going to come down to who's making shots, but also who's creating the most possessions, as a team. The Knicks, I thought, again, the Knicks was unfortunate. I think it's been 2 games in a row where the shooters more or less gone cold outside of like one guy maybe has it going, but the rest of the team is kind of cold. So that's frustrating. But I thought against the Cavs, they conceded some advantages because they weren't generating turnovers until the fourth quarter. They have to generate turnovers, so they have to generate ball pressure. They can't, like, they just cannot allow for the Cavaliers to just get easy shots at the rim from blobs or like bounce passes going to the rim for their bigs. Like the help defender's got to be there before the catch. Like he's got to be there before the catch, man. And then you get in the rotation and like, all right, who's faster, you or the ball? And it would help if instead of playing Kispert, who's a negative athlete, you play Ricochet, who's a good athlete. And so that you can play with that level of, all right, if we're going to beat the big before he catches the ball on the roll, somebody's got to come from somewhere else on the floor to cover the corner shooter. So it's just one of those things where they got to play their athletes. Quin has to trust them to be, be their best selves on the offensive end as well. So I thought Mo played well, but like I was really disappointed in what Quin decided to do with his rotation.
Agreed. Like you could even make a case like, oh, okay, times are hard. You want to play an 8-man rotation and you want to play, Kuminga had it going. You want to play Kuminga, Moge, Gabe Vincent off the bench. And then lean into, McCollum, uh, Nikhil, and Dyson as guards, essentially, so that, basically the players you're playing off the bench are mostly forwards. Like 8-man rotation, like, sure. But if you have any itch, any inkling that you need to play Corey Kispert over Zach Ricochet, like you've made a mistake. Like it's not going to work. They hunted him mercilessly. And like the Hawks, I don't, maybe it's just the reality of the NBA, especially the reality of what it's going to look like in playoff basketball. But like every single time they got the switch they wanted. Like there was no staying with your man. Like it was Donovan Mitchell and Kispert, and you're coming with me. You're going to be the one guarding me because they got that switch using off-ball actions every single time, and it was just over like every single time.
Well,
Just uniformly, one on
well, to
one.
Glen,
You're with me, and they couldn't cover for him.
yeah, well, I mean, to Glenn's point, it helps when you're just allowed to foul and like they have to do the switch. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm with you overall. Kispert just,
I mean, they're not going to call off-ball stuff though. You're going to get
they're
that
not.
switch in the playoffs, pretty much. Like if there's a guy that you want to hunt and you want to get him on your star, like just do the action off ball so that it's kind of not under the microscope, and you're going to be able to do some hugging, some pulling, and that switch is going to have to happen because somebody's going to be tied up. Like that's playoff basketball.
Yeah, but it would help. I'm with you, but it would also help if you just play a better athlete.
Oh,
You know,
sure. Like it just needs to not be Kispert because if there's somebody they want to hunt, they will. They'll be
yeah,
able to do it.
because I mean they did it with CJ for the majority of the game. That's where I get to my point. Was like CJ may need to guard the ball,
Yep.
uh, depending on the matchup here, uh, because it's easier to attack him if he has to switch coming off a screen than if you're just pure ISO, no screen, no action.
Yep.
I think the Hawks can live with that on a points per possession basis. Whereas if the Hawks are forced to switch, because there has been against the Knicks, there was a lot of indecision between Dyson and Nikhil if they should switch or not because CJ's man was setting the pick. So like I do think there's some truth to that. Quinn may need to also go with Kuminga at the 3 instead of CJ in the game and just play with 2 guards. He might want to go to that sooner, depending on what teams are doing defensively. But yeah, I mean that was Kuminga, one of Kuminga's better games, and that's one of the advantages the Hawks do have. Like the Cavs really don't have anybody who has the size, strength,
Right.
and length to defend Kuminga.
Yep.
And so that's something the Hawks should take advantage of. And by hopefully, if Kuminga's knees are right, he can play more extended minutes here, and maybe even consider starting him because that it did feel like until with the 3 guards, and particularly in the first half of both the Cavs and Knicks game, that the Hawks were too small, like just flat out were just too small compared to what the offense was trying to do against them. So they may want to consider that may be something Quinn might want to use in his back pocket just to have Kuminga out there instead of CJ, either start or to close games.
Glenn, I have a big question for you. You
Okay.
ready for a big question? He looks up for joy. All right. So Quinn has 1 year left on his contract.
Yep.
And I think if you look at the history of the NBA, you don't operate under a lame duck coach like that. You don't go into that final season of the contract, right? Does that ever happen? And if it has happened, does it ever go well? I can't imagine that it goes well.
It's definitely a thing that I think both coach and organization try to avoid
Yes.
because I think it's sort of the writings on the wall, like what happens next after the season, that sort of thing. But the question I have, I mean, on if you're on social media, people get so mad, like, why is he playing Kispert? And we talk about that, et cetera. Like, I want more Gabe Vincent. That's my personal preference there. Um, but so for my viewpoint is it's not who you fire or get rid of. Can you upgrade? Quinn's a good coach. In my view, Quinn's a good coach. They had up until the trade deadline, they had a horrible roster balance across. I mean, KP never played. We can go. We don't have to really relitigate that. Um, but he's a top 12, 15, whatever number you want to throw out there. Like he's highly respected as a coach. They have more roster balance now, but it's can you upgrade? Can the Atlanta Hawks organization attract a coach that's better than Quinn? I'm dubious about that. So my vote is extend him if he wants to stick around. That's my viewpoint. Um, but someone maybe ask Ansi if is he committed? Well, would he answer the question or would he be vague about it? He'd probably be pretty vague about it. In his answer, he'd probably be just kind of vague. But I think Quinn's a really, really good coach personally. I think he has more roster balance now, and I think they should stick with him unless there's an obvious upgrade. And I hear people like Mike Malone. Well, he's in North Carolina now, right? So, and whoever else, all those things. I think Quinn's a good coach, so I think they should stick with him.
I guess I want to also note here, like Quinn predates Ansi, right? Like Quinn was the head coach when Ansi took over, so it's not like Ansi picked him. So Tyler, do you think Ansi is looking at what Quinn has done in his body of work and saying, "Yeah, that's my guy. I want to get him signed up for beyond the next season"?
Um, this question, unfortunately, I think like if the Hawks were still like a middling 500 team, maybe, but they've made such a transformation. It was a bad like I wasn't impressed with what Quinn did last night. That doesn't mean I haven't been impressed with what Quinn's done this season when he finally had roster balance and he showed proof of concept. And more importantly, the players like him, and he's also gotten the players by and large, to buy in, largely because he doesn't have a leash on. Like he allows them with a lot of freedom to do whatever they feel like is best, and he more guides them in certain ways instead of having a tighter leash. And this is you look at this Hawks roster, it's a odd collection of talent. Like these are a lot of guys who are super talented, but you know maybe lack certain aspects of the game that doesn't get them to the next level. And I think Quin's going to have on his portfolio two guys back-to-back seasons who win Most Improved Player of the Year, primarily because he offered them more freedom than their previous teams. I think Onsi's going to look at that and be like, no, of course I'm going to extend him. So I'd be pretty surprised if Quin isn't back, um, past these next couple years, unless the Hawks can unless the Hawks can get like somebody like John Shire to uh from Duke or something like that. Like
Duke
I'm
on
not
Duke
seeing.
crime like that?
Yeah, that's. But I mean, that if we're talking upgrades, like we got to talk about the best, coaches in the sport of basketball. A lot of them are in
Okay.
college, unfortunately,
Okay.
right now. And so, like, unless you're going to get Shire out of Duke, which I don't think is going to happen, I don't see a real upgrade. We'll see what happens with Spoelstra in Miami, because I think they're heading towards a. I think it's decision time with that organization. So maybe Spoelstra is available, but then you, then you got to consider Spoelstra. Like he's probably the best coach in the sport. Uh, so like you don't want to take that take him off the table. So like that's like that's the type of coach we're talking about where we're like, if you're gonna upgrade, there's probably only two or three guys who are definitively better than Quin in the world. And so like if that's the case, they're probably not available other than Shire, maybe, depending on what he does on his recruiting without Cam Boozer. So we'll see uh with what the Hawks do. But like to me, he's done too well of a job of like elevating the talent that he has in the roster, and they still got, and you can clearly see where they can get better. Like we take this season aside, like you clearly can see where the Hawks can improve this roster going forward, and they have the tools to do that. Playing Quin style, like I see no reason why he shouldn't be back for the next couple of years to steer this franchise into an even better position.
I will say, if you haven't been paying attention, Spo has already said that he's basically on the Brad Stevens plan.
Yeah,
Next step for him is Miami Heat front office, Pio Pobo. That's he sounds completely ready for that. He sounds
He's
like
been
I'm
doing it a
done coaching.
long
I
time.
can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And understandably, he's been doing it a long time. And they have a great front office, Andy Simon and Pat's getting older, all that sort of stuff. But I think Eric's already said like stepping into that role is the next thing for me, and he sounds completely ready for it. So I don't think he's an option, but you know, we'll see.
Notre Dame legend Chris Quinn. He gets the job,
yeah, I
no?
know. I mean, what are we talking about, Kevin? Like this, I don't know. The coaching thing is not interesting anymore. Unfortunately, they've won too many games. The proof of concept is pretty much locked in. Like they have a real shot to be contenders going forward for the next 3 or 5 years. No reason to rock the boat here. And like, I mean, look,
When I
man, he's
said
getting
Chris
to me.
Quinn, I meant Heat assistant Chris Quinn as the successor for the Miami job.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't care about what Miami does. Uh, I just point out Spoelstra just because
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
they got to make
I was
they
just
Miami
we've
got
gone off the
pulled
Miami
by
tangent. I
the
was just
Raptors
put
tonight.
one more tentacle on the tangent.
So,
All
yeah.
right. Thank you for joining me, and hopefully we have another interesting round two with the Cavaliers. And good night, Bob.
Good night, Bob.
Good night.